Good morning. It's still morning, isn't it? My name is Mike James, and I am a professor of psychology, and I'm department chair of behavioral sciences here at Ivy Tech. And I'm here this morning at the request of your instructor to talk to you about the relationship between brain activity and some particular kinds of behavior. Particular kinds of behavior that we're going to talk about involve creativity and what happens in the brain when a person is engaging in creative activity, whatever that activity is. And some of the things that we'll talk about even go beyond what you might traditionally think of. Some of you guys I know are in music, and some people in other forms of art. Some of the things that we'll discuss will also apply to sports, for example. So, let's begin by just having a brief introduction, if you already know this, it will be a review for you, of some of the parts of the brain. It's important to remember, and I think, and sometimes forget this, and I have discussions with my students about this in my enrollment psychology class, that everything that we do is a result of something that happens in our brains. And we tend to forget that because brain activity, at least at the physical level, we're not consciously aware of. We can't tell when things happen in our brains. And so we have other ways of studying brain activity and trying to make these associations between particular kinds of behaviors, thought patterns, perceptions, and what happens in the brain. So the brain is divided into two halves called hemispheres. And it follows something called the principle of contralaterality. That means, I always have to point and move my limbs when I do this, that what happens on the right side of the body is controlled by the left side of the brain. It helps me if I touch my head when I remember this. And what happens on the left side of the body is controlled by the right side of the brain. The hemispheres are further subdivided into areas called lobes. And there is a good bit of specialization of function among the four lobes. So let's review what the lobes do. This is the front part of the brain, and this is the back part of the brain. That's the top, and that's the bottom, and that is the spinal cord. So you can't actually, just by looking, necessarily tell where the brain stops and the spinal cord ends. But there are brain functions down to this part right here. Just by way of information, the oldest part of the brain is down here, and the newer parts are the external parts up here, the surface parts. So, in the back of the brain, we have what is called the occipital lobe. And the occipital lobe processes visual input. So information from the eyes travels via the optic nerve back to the occipital lobe and gets turned into some kind of a perception. The green part right here is at the top and in front of the occipital lobe is the parietal lobe. And the parietal lobe is responsible for perceptual activities. And there's actually a section right here in the parietal lobe called the sensory cortex. So all of the sensory information from all of the senses, with the exception of smell, smell is connected directly to a part of the brain underneath the frontal lobes called the olfactory area. So all the other senses, taste, touch, smell, get processed in this little strip right here. Some arithmetic functions, spelling, putting together perceptions of the world also happens in the parietal lobe. If we go down underneath that, we have the temporal lobe. And the temporal lobe is responsible for auditory information, processing that auditory input. So things that we hear. And there's also a specialized area for language, which in most people is only in the left side of the brain, the left hemisphere. But some people actually have it in the other side, the right side. But most people have it in the left. And that's called the area that is responsible for receiving language input. It's called Wernicke's area, but the name is not really that important for our purposes. So when you understand language, and that's where it is processed in the temporal lobe. The frontal lobe is responsible for what we call executive functions. So a lot of things that happen in the other lobes, that information will go into the frontal lobe and be processed, and the information will be sent back to those areas. So executive functions include, sometimes they're called higher order processes, like thinking, planning, organizing information, material, solving problems. We also exert control over our emotional impulses in the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is probably also the main seat of who we are, our personalities, and our sense of identity. So, let's talk a little bit about attention. Attention is what we can focus on: perceptions, experiences, thoughts, things that happen inside the brain, and things that happen outside the brain as well, by using our sensory apparatus. So attention is flexible. It can be focused and it can be directed. Like right at this moment, you might be paying a lot of attention to what I'm saying. And if I say, listen to the sound of that fan, which was sort of background noise until then, but now it may seem louder to you. So your attention can be focused on different things, different activities. Our cognitive resources, which is what we refer to as the collection of things that the brain enables us to do, and usually we're talking about frontal lobe activities, they're limited. So we can only pay attention to a certain number of things at once. How many things do you suppose you can pay attention to at one time? One? Yeah. If you really want to pay serious attention, that's probably true. But some things we can sort of do as kind of a background activity and attend to other things at the same time. So we can divide our attention a little bit up to a point. But if you really want to, if you're serious about an activity, it's best to focus all your attention on that activity, isn't it? It is. So we use the term consciousness or awareness to refer to whatever it is about the brain that makes us be able to direct our attention and to know what's going on in the world. And we talk about normal, sometimes called waking consciousness, and then we also have identified a number of altered states of consciousness. So normal waking consciousness is when we're completely awake, when we aren't drowsy, we aren't asleep, and we aren't under the influence of a drug, and we're alert. So it's a state of being very aware. Altered states, we start to become less awake and less alert. And we're going to look at what happens in the brain as we go through some of these altered states of consciousness. So daydreaming, which is a very common activity. Most of us daydream probably multiple times a day, would you say? So in daydreaming, we turn our attention a little more inward and stop focusing as much on what's happening on the outside. So we kind of divide our attention up, and in this case, we're less aware maybe of what's happening in the external world and more aware of what's going on in our own internal world, in our thought processes. Meditation is considered an altered state of consciousness. In a meditative state, your brain waves will actually start to change. And we'll talk about how they change in just a minute. I mentioned being under the influence of a drug. We'll refer to that as intoxication, drug intoxication. And we just talked about that yesterday in my abnormal psychology class. So hypnosis is also an altered state of consciousness. And in hypnosis, a person becomes very focused on what's happening internally. Sleep. Have you ever thought of sleep as an altered state of consciousness? And sleep is not actually one state of consciousness. There are 5 states of consciousness that we go through from being awake to being fully asleep and then becoming in some ways less awake, having a dream. And then we'll talk about that a little bit more. There's actually a whole cycle that we go through when we sleep. So, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today is a concept called flow. Being in the flow. Have you heard this expression before? Anybody? No? Okay. So I'll try to explain to you what it is and how it works and how it might be related to artistic endeavor and creativity. I mentioned that as our states of consciousness change, our brain waves also change. So here is a chart that shows 5 different types of brain waves. And they all have Greek names, beginning with gamma at the top and delta at the bottom. So we qualify these brain waves and quantify them. And we do so by how many cycles per second there are. So brain waves have an up and a down, all waves do. And they cycle, and you can count how many times they cycle per second. So gamma waves are the fastest brain waves, and they cycle from 31 to 120 times per second, cycles per second, they're called. And this is a kind of a hyper brain activity that we don't see all the time. More normally, we see what are called beta waves, and beta waves are slower. They cycle from 13 to 30 cycles per second. And this is our normal waking brainwave, is beta wave. Now, as brainwaves start to slow down, we enter different states of consciousness. So the first slower waveform is the alpha wave, and this is from 8 to 12 cycles per second. So if you start to relax, you feel your body relax, your brain will also start to slow down, and you may start to show alpha rhythm instead of the beta rhythm. Alpha waves are also found in meditative states. Has anybody ever tried meditation? What kind?
Just try the sitting still and having your eyes open and focusing on like everything.
Okay.
And then I've tried with my eyes closed.
Yeah. So if we hooked a electroencephalogram to your head and measure your brain waves, if you're successful at entering a meditative state, we should see alpha waves. That's what we should see. Yeah.
So your brain physically is vibrating.
It's what?
Your body is vibrating.
It's not really vibrating. It's an electrical impulse. So it's the cells in your brain are firing in rhythm. And you can read that off of your skull from the outside and show it as a waveform. And that's the form that it takes. So it really reflects electrical activity in the brain. So the next slower wave is called theta wave, and this is 4 to 7 cycles per second. And this means that we're really starting to generally go into a sleep state. So we'll show these theta waves as we start to enter a lighter stage of sleep. As we get into the deepest stages of sleep, we'll show a very slow wave called the delta wave. And it's from 1/2 to 3 cycles per second. So a normal night of sleep, you'll begin by being awake, show the beta waves. You'll start to relax and get drowsy, so you'll start to show an alpha rhythm. You'll go into stage 1 sleep and stage 2 sleep, and you'll start to see theta waves. As you get to the very slowest waves, delta waves, you'll be in stages 3 and 4. It's called stage 4 is the deepest sleep. And this is where we're really kind of dead to the world. It's very hard to wake a person up from stage 4 sleep. If you're in stage 1, a noise might arouse you immediately. Somebody might call your name and you might wake right up. Then a funny thing happens. The process reverses itself. And we go back, the brain becomes very active again, and we show beta waves. And this is called rapid eye movement sleep, or REM sleep. And this is generally when we dream, although dreaming can occur in the other stages. It's most common for it to occur when we're having REM sleep. So, for our purposes today, one of the interesting things is that researchers have measured what kind of brain waves people show when they're in the flow state. And it's in between alpha waves and theta waves. So about 8 cycles per second. That's what it is. When people feel like they're in the flow. And we'll talk more about what that means. So the term flow was originated by this guy who wants to take a shot at pronouncing his name. Nobody? Actually, I looked it up and Wikipedia has a pronounce names thing for you. Now I'm going to take a shot at it. It's Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. You probably think that was pretty bad, but it's close enough to get. So he said that being in the flow involves being in what he called a unique state of concentration. So that's why I say it's probably an altered state of consciousness. And one of the subjective experiences of people who are in this flow state is that whatever they're doing, and generally studies are done on people engaging in a creative activity or physical activity. It could be painting, it could be playing an instrument, it could be riding a bicycle. That what they're doing seems to be almost effortless. And it almost seems like they're watching themselves do it without intentionally telling it to happen. So you become less conscious of yourself, you become very absorbed in the present, and don't think about much else except the activity that you're engaging in. People who are able to achieve this state are usually performing at their best. They're given peak performance, or even perhaps going beyond that. They may perform in a way that goes beyond what they've been able to achieve before. People report in this state that their emotions, their feelings are very positive, and that they feel that they have a lot of energy. And they also, as I said, don't think about much else except what they're doing. So, as we saw in the last chart, brainwave-wise, the alpha-theta border around 8 hertz is a brainwave signature state for being in a flow. So this chart, if you got the small copy, you might not be able to read it very well, but it just shows you all of the other gamma, beta, theta, alpha, and delta, or alpha, theta, and delta, so I got them out of order. All those brainwave states and what the frequency is, and then reminds you that this is where flow probably starts, in between alpha and theta. Another thing, this is some of the work of the same psychologist who first started talking about flow. He put together this chart that shows what is happening in terms of a person's skill level and the challenge of the task that they're engaging in, when it is most likely that they would be involved in a flow state. So this is low skill level, high skill level, low challenge, high challenge. And if you're very low on both, he says you're likely to feel kind of apathetic. You don't have a high skill level on the particular task, and it's not very challenging. So this sounds like maybe a new job as an assembly line worker, doing something that's very simple, but you still have never done it before. As the difficulty level of the task increases and your skill level increases, eventually you get to the level that is high on both. And that is when you're more likely to be able to achieve the flow state. So you're doing something that you have become highly skilled at doing, you know how to do it well, and you're facing a difficult challenge. So for in sports, I like to bicycle. So for me, it might be maybe I'm riding a ride that I've ridden before, but I try to increase my average speed by 1 mile an hour. Which, if you've ever bicycled, that might not sound like much, but it takes a significant amount of energy to average a whole mile an hour faster, particularly in an area like Bloomington where there are a lot of hills. If it's music, it might be performing a piece that you've never played before. How many people are in music? Does everybody play an instrument? So have you ever done that? Have you ever performed a difficult piece of music?
While riding a bike. Right there. Almost right though. So have they ever tried to, I don't mean to sidetrack you, but
Yeah.
have they ever tried to like make a device that shows you which waves are which waves? Like just from what you hear? And then you can actually link into that because then you'll be able to focus on like the man.
Oh, sure. It's called biofeedback.
Really?
Yeah, a biofeedback machine will actually show you a picture of your brain waves. And I don't know if anybody has used that in conjunction with this flow research, probably so, but I'm not familiar with the study that has happened. But if you're interested, come and see me and we can look for one. So potentially you can use that as a training device to help you get feedback about when you're getting into the flow state. So if you look at it only from the standpoint of measuring the electrical impulses from your brain, to get into the flow zone, all you have to do is slow down your brain waves. So if you can get your brain waves slowed down, at least from the electrical measurement point of view, you should be able to achieve a flow state. I think it's probably more complicated than that. So, what does it feel like to be in the flow? Does anybody think they've ever experienced this? So, when you're playing, or?
Well, yeah, while you're playing, you know, like on tests, like, I feel like kind of, like when I take tests, I'm only focused on my test. And
Yeah.
nothing else matters really.
But it's more than just being focused on it. It's like a feeling that you're really performing well.
Can it be described as like you're in a different room? You don't really
Maybe, yeah. That's
know what's going on around you, but you choose not.
Yeah.
You choose not to
Yeah,
feel
more
that.
focused on the task than you are on the external events. So you're completely involved in what you're doing. Focused, concentrate, and some people feel sort of ecstatic. They feel like they're really enjoying what they're doing, and they have a sense of an experience that's different than everyday, ordinary reality. maybe a feeling of being really clear about what you're doing, about what you want to do, how well you're doing it, and you're getting immediate feedback from the task on how well you're performing. You know that you can do whatever the activity is, so you're confident about your ability to perform the task. And you may even lose your sense of self. So not only are you not paying attention to other people, but you may not be paying much attention to yourself, really. So you might actually lose track of time, become completely focused on the present, and your motivation is, we call it intrinsic. It's coming from the inside. So it's a reward for you simply to be engaging in this activity while you're in the flow. I think of this, I play a musical instrument, I play the guitar, and I like to play jazz, and I like to improvise. And I have achieved the state. I used to talk to my wife about it before I even knew much about the flow research. Because I remember saying things to her like, wow, I played for like half an hour, and it was all just improvised, and it felt so effortless. It felt like I wasn't even doing it, like the music just comes out of your hands or whatever, and you're actually sort of watching yourself play it. So that kind of experience is characteristic, I think, of what the researcher is talking about with being in the flow. So, how can you get into a flow state? Find something that is challenging that you enjoy doing, and develop your skills to the point where you can meet the challenge. Does anybody else, what instruments do you guys play?
Saxophone.
Yeah. Do you play jazz?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Do you like to improvise? Yeah. So, improvising is not that easy, is it? It's difficult. You have to understand a lot of things about music to really be proficient at improvising. So until you learn those things, it might be harder for you to get into a flow state when you're trying to improvise, because you're having to make too much effort, because you haven't achieved a state of proficiency that makes it easier to get into the flow. Focus on what you're doing. Eliminate other distractions. So your instructor told me she's had some conversations with the people in her art class about the need to be really focused on what you're doing and eliminating outside distractions. Like if you're holding discussions with other people, it's going to take your focus off whatever you're working on in your project and probably make it harder for you to achieve a flow state where you're likely to be most creative. So if your concentration gets broken, you get distracted, and you probably fall out of the flow state. Set aside sufficient time. It takes a while, probably at least 15 minutes, researchers think, to be able to get into a flow state. And you want to make sure that you're able to use the state productively once you get in there. So allow yourself sufficient time to be in the flow of things and to take advantage of being in the flow. Finally, monitor your emotional state. If you're having difficulty getting into the flow, ask yourself why. Am I experiencing some kind of negative emotions that are distracting me? Am I feeling angry, anxious? Am I worried about something? Try to put that aside and focus on what you're doing. I find that actually, I'm a clinical psychologist by training, and I find that that kind of focus and engaging in an activity that takes your mind off of other things is actually very therapeutic. It's actually very helpful to do. Do you have any questions?
Where does type of focus fall into it?
I'm sorry.
Where does type of focus fall into all this?
Hyper-focus?
Focus.
Yeah, it's up at the top. It's very rapid waves. And what does it do? What's the purpose of it?
Oh, I know what it is.
Oh, yeah, so it's very rapid waves. And some people think it might be a kind of a temporary state that comes on when we're especially prepared to learn something, and it makes us more able to learn. Anybody else have a question?
So, not separate yourself from everything else in order to achieve this. Right.
You have to kind of put yourself aside.
Right.
Yeah,
but still be a part of it.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that's like almost.
yeah. It's not. It's almost like you don't consciously
But
say.
they taught kids this from kindergarten all the way up, like through elementary school.
Yeah, interesting idea.
I mean, they might forget about it, but eventually they'll come back to the.
There's actually an initiative in the MCCSC now to do that,
Wow.
to teach more mindful meditation. It's cool.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate in our culture, in our economic system, we don't always stress the quality of what we do. We put more emphasis on the quality of it. So there's a lot more focus on assembly line type work. And when I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about pictures I've seen of painting factories. You ever seen these where people sit around and just want to paint in like a very brief amount of time and sell pictures, mass-produce pictures. And I wouldn't think those people would be in the flow when they're doing work like that. Anybody else have a question? Okay, enjoy talking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.